Happy right now.
I know Shelley said about halfway through, how long till Sebastian?
All right, well, welcome. Today, we're talking about tapping, EFT, effective freedom technique. And I'm hoping to also fit in some NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And so, just with a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with these terms? Never ever heard of them?
Heard of tapping.
The neuro-linguistic programming, how about you?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but don't really know much about it.
Okay, well, welcome. It's actually been a practice that has been around since 1979. And I have to tell you, at my age, it looks like we're all about the same age. 79 doesn't seem that long ago, right? but it's a practice that has been used for at least that time. And now there's a lot of research behind it. And so it's a great tool that you can use for yourself if you're feeling stressed or if you have any anxiety. And I'll go into a little bit more of how these practices can help support you. But I thought it would be kind of fun to start talking about how did tapping come about. And there was a psychologist who was helping a woman who had a phobia of water. I mean, to the point that she could not give her children a bath. She had so much fear. And this psychologist had been working with her doing like immersion therapy. Like, you know, if I keep introducing you to water, eventually your nervous system will settle down. And over a year, still had not seen much progress. And so he happened to be studying Chinese medicine, which had acupuncture, acupressure. You might be aware when they put the needles in or they tap. And she happened to mention that anxiety was in her stomach. And he thought, So he knew what the meridian was for the stomach, and he had her tap on that point, which happens to be under the eye. And her fear went away. Like this, like she could not even remember that she had that fear.
Oh, wow.
And she never had it again for 30 years, the last they checked. So he thought, wow, this is amazing, right? So this is something I need to practice. And so he created this algorithm. So if you had fear and it was associated in the belly, you would tap here. If you had anxiety and it was associated in the liver, you would tap. Well, that was great if you knew exactly where those emotions are in your body. And so he would create this, okay, you tap here, you tap here, right? And you would have to know. But some of us aren't always that aware of where these emotions are in our bodies. And so there was another gentleman, and his name was Gary Craig. So when you hear these different names associated, the first guy, was Roger Callahan. And the second guy realized it didn't really matter as much where you were tapping as long as you were tapping. And so now the research shows that there is some difference, right? Whether you're tapping here, whether you're tapping here, it does make a difference. But if you just tapped in all those spaces, you were probably going to catch whatever it was that was stuck. So this family, the Ortners, Nick Ortner, had started to learn about tapping just about the same time that Sandy Hook happened. And he lived in that neighborhood. And so he had just started learning how to tap and how it would reduce anxiety and it would help in different ways. So he volunteered, him and his family volunteered, and they went out to the Sandy Hook community and helped those families get through that. And so, so there's a really nice story behind this. And so we now know that tapping helps treat PTSD. It helps to treat anxiety, and I have a list here. And so it helps with fear, it helps with phobia. If you've had a trauma, it will help reduce the anxiety that the body's feeling if you've had trauma in your life. Nick Ortner's sister, Jessica Ortner, wrote a whole book on how to use tapping to reduce weight. So if you're having problems with weight gain, you can use tapping to move through that. If you have limiting beliefs, if you have issues in your relationship, tapping will help with all of that. So it's an amazing tool, right? And it's one that's worth learning because you could use it for many different things in your life. So if you're experiencing pain, a lot of that pain is your perception of the pain. And so by tapping, you can actually reduce some of that perception. If you're starting to feel sick, the body responds. Tapping can reduce that. So I'm going to tell you a story because I know you're saying it's not all in my head, right? But so I was preparing for a party, and I was cutting, I was making something that had chilies in it. And so I'm cutting the peppers, and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, totally forgot. And I touched my eyes, and I think I touched my nose. And so I had this redness. I did not remember that I had it on my fingers. My first thought was, I'm feeling sick. I'm coming down with something. And all of a sudden, my whole body started feeling like it was sick. All because I thought I was sick. As soon as I looked around and I remembered I had been cutting peppers and I realized that's what it was, I felt better. The mind is just crazy, right? And so this is how tapping also helps, right? So it helps to stop that thought process. And so we often have negative emotional states, and it could be caused by something happening in your life. It could be because society tells us we're not good enough, or it could be because, our parents didn't always send us positive messages. There's lots of different reasons why we might have these negative ruminating thoughts. Tapping will help break through those. And so there is a guy, Dr. Dan Siegel, it's pretty famous. You guys might have heard of Dr. Siegel. He talks about a window of tolerance. And so each of us have a different window of tolerance. And so something like COVID happens. That was a pretty big event. So it affected almost everybody, right? But did you notice that all of us were affected differently? Some of us just went into lockdown. We were overwhelmed. It was a lot for us to have to handle. Our window of tolerance is much smaller. That was too much for us. Some of us have big windows, and that was just a hiccup along the way. Some of us made great strides during COVID because our resilience was different. And your window of tolerance is based on past life experiences. Some of you probably have heard of the ACE study, the Adverse Childhood Event Studies. How you were raised, if you had trauma, affects your health as an adult. And it was Kaiser Permanente that did the research. And what they found is that they researched people that were drug addicted, or that had cancer, or had diabetes, or had something, right? And they all went back and found that they had some childhood trauma. That trauma could have been a divorce. It could have been sexual abuse. It could have been mom and dad fighting. And they have a whole list of what they consider trauma. But to me, trauma is trauma to you, right? It could have been asking for an ice cream and not getting it, right? It could have been hearing your parents say, I don't have enough money for that, and thinking that, oh my gosh, we don't have any money. And traumas today are quite different. We have cyber trauma, right? We have there's trauma looks different. But what it shows us is that how you were raised, what happened in your childhood is affecting you now. And those beliefs are still inside your body. So think about those times in your life that you attempted to make changes. So I now don't eat any meat. It was really easy for me to give up a lot of things. I could give up soda. Someone told me soda was bad for me. The carbonation's bad for your kidneys. I'm like, oh, okay. So I just stopped. Some things were not so easy for me to give up. So it wasn't just willpower, right? It was these beliefs. So when I grew up, sugar was a reward. If I was good, I got sugar. If I finished my homework, I could have sugar. If I got good grades. So it was associated to so much. I also remember that at home, I sat with my family and ate ice cream, right? Now I've lost my mom and dad. So it is also comforting for me to sit on the couch and eat ice cream, right? So these are things that cognitively I know, and I'm having trouble breaking through. These are those emotional beliefs that are in my body. Tapping helps get to those. And again, it goes back to, you may not even remember. I feel guilty. So I'm talking about food. Food was big in my family. I had to eat everything on my plate because there were starving children in China, right? Now I know some people might say, well, pack it up and send it out there, right? It was so ingrained in my belief. I have trouble to this day. If I don't eat all the food, I cannot throw that food away. I could pack it up and have it for leftovers. I could make something, but it is not going to be wasted. Now, in my mind, that just doesn't make sense, right? In my body, though, it still feels guilty if I don't follow that. Tapping helps with that. So think about those things. Money. How were you raised with money, right? Were you raised that money grows on trees? There's plenty of it. You can spend it. Or were you raised that you had to pinch every penny? Or were you raised that bad people had money, right? So if you see yourself self-sabotaging, you start to be successful and suddenly you lose it or you do something, it may go back to these beliefs that you don't even realize that you have that are working. So that was a lot of information. So tell me, what are your thoughts about this? Is this like intriguing now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Any questions? Anything that popped up while we were talking about this? You have something,
Not a question, but just.
a comment or like?
Yeah, when we were on vacation, we took our bikes and I had not been bike riding since my hip surgery. And I still love to ride bikes. Oh, this is gonna be great. I had so much fun. I was so overtaken with fear, and it was all in the body. I mean, I know I can ride a bike, and we were on a bike path. It wasn't like it was mountain biking or anything, but I was just consumed with fear. I wish I'd had this last week.
To help. Okay. So that's good, right? So tapping can help you right in the moment. So science shows that when you tap, it tells the body that you're safe. And so if you're feeling anxiety, you can tap on it and the body's like, oh, I'm safe. It reduces that tension right there. We also use it to release that tension or anxiety from those past events. So there's lots of ways that tapping can step in to help. And so you can tap in those moments if you're starting to feel anxiety creeping in. And we'll talk a little bit about how we do that. So you have some papers here. Yes.
Well,
Welcome.
kind of in a transition. Is it possible to move the fan a little bit? I love being able to
See
see
me, but is
you,
it too much?
but it's-
Let me just turn it off because you're this.
I mean,
So we'll turn it off. If it starts to get warm in here, we'll turn it back on. Are you okay?
or if
You're
you
my
just
hot,
move
you're my
to-
hot baby.
Well, I don't have a thermoregulator, but I'm near a vent.
Okay, you feel good. Okay.
Do you want it over closer to you? Up there?
No, I'm okay.
We can, we are very flexible here.
And everybody here knows me well enough. If I get hot, I'll go get that fan. and
Yeah.
go.
Good. All right, so go to the second page and see the tapping points. So this is not effective freedom technique. This is tapping based on the Ortner's tapping solution. So it's a little modified to be easier, which I like for you to be learning. Tapping includes a lot of like eye motion, really connecting neural pathways in the brain, but you don't need to know all that in the beginning. This is a great tool when you're starting to tap. And so these tapping points are also connected to different organs. So we have these meridians that go through our bodies. And so I went ahead in blue and put down where each tapping point is connected to. So that's kind of interesting, right? So if you're feeling a pain in a certain area, you might think, oh, that's connected to my gallbladder, right? Or that's connected to this. Or if you're tapping and you notice relief, you might go, oh, that's connected to my spine. What does that tell me, right? So it's just a little bit more information to help you as you work on this self-discovery. So go ahead and you can take a look. There's all these tapping points. We are actually going to run through a tapping session and you'll get to practice this. Now, when we are tapping, I want you to like put your finger like on your paper here. And imagine you had like a dime or something and you're moving it around. That's the pressure that you use for tapping. This is not about pounding out anything that needs to be gone, right? That's a different technique. This is just, we're stimulating a point on the body to get energy moving, to get that energy flowing. So when you think about your emotions, we often consider emotions good or bad emotions. An emotion is an emotion. We say certain emotions are good or bad. Happy is good. Angry is bad. Jealousy is bad, right? And so as children, we are raised that we should not show certain emotions. I'll give you something to be angry about or sad about, or we were taught from a very early age to suck it up and push it down. But if you were happy, that was okay. So we express certain emotions, other emotions we push down. Sometimes we push them down because we don't want other people to feel uncomfortable. So I feel like I need to cry, but I know if I cry, it's going to make everybody, so we push it down, right? So there's a lot of things that we push down in our body. And if we tap, we allow it to be released. So today we're going to be tapping. You might feel a release. You can do this at home. I always recommend at the beginning that you do it with someone to help keep you guided and to help keep you safe. Because if there is a release, we know that that might not be comfortable for you. If you're not comfortable expressing emotions, you want to feel safe, it might be a good thing to do with somebody alone, right? And so, or practice on your own, or, we have different ways that we can support you. But just know, so now as we start to practice, if you notice yourself feeling uncomfortable, remind yourself that your feet are on the ground, right? You're connected to the earth. Feel your hips resting on the chair, find that connection. Bring yourself back to that safety, okay? I don't think we'll go that far, but just to prepare you, right? Just in case. I did a tapping with staff, and one of the staff members had to run out of the room, right? Because it's just not always comfortable to be in this place. I want you to know that you're safe right here, right? All right, so do you have a question or a
I've
comment?
got a question, for the tapping, is there a certain speed? Or is it just variable, whatever?
So let's practice. Let's actually practice. So we feel our feet on the earth. So in the beginning of tapping, we are going to bring together an idea, right? Something that you want to work on. If you're feeling stressed, you want to release that stress. I want you to elicit an emotion, right? So in this moment, let's do one together, right? And this is, let's do one about being open to learning. Sometimes as we get older, we think we're too old to learn. Or when we don't catch it right away, we think everybody's got it and I don't. Or all these things, right? All these things that prevent us from feeling comfortable up here. So we're going to tap and we're going to bring that forward. So we're going to tap on this karate part. And you see it at the bottom here. We only do this in the very beginning. This is just the start to think about what is it that I'm going to tap on. It could be the fear of riding the bike. It could be I'm starting to come down with a cold and I want to let it go. It could be anything. But let's tap on this idea that I have trouble learning. I'm having trouble learning. I just know I'm going to come to this class and I'm not going to remember it. It's going to be trouble. So what we're doing is we're bringing up that idea, but then we want to accept ourselves right where we are. And even though I'm feeling like I'm having trouble learning, I accept who I am. So we're accepting just, this is how I'm feeling right now. I can accept this is how I'm feeling. If this is hard for you to say, I can accept that I have trouble learning, right? I have trouble learning. We know that, right? So you can just tap on one side. You don't have to tap on both. Some people like to tap on both. So I'm in this class and I'm ready to learn, but I'm a little scared, right? Or I'm a little hesitant, or I'm a little apprehensive. What are you feeling, right? What are you feeling? And I'm going to accept myself that I'm apprehensive. I'm going to accept that I have a little concern about this idea. Or maybe I'm not ready to learn this yet, but I'm open to learning. All right, so go ahead and rest. And let's check in with the body. So we just brought up a concept, right? If you were to put that on a scale from 0 to 10, how are you feeling about this? 0 is, I'm okay. I'm open to learning. I'm feeling really good. 5 is, yeah, I'm open to learning, but I'm still a little worried about how this is gonna fit with me. 10 is, I'm not even comfortable in this room. This is really uncomfortable. I'm sitting with people I don't know. I've got a lot of anxiety. So go ahead and measure yourself. If you want to, write it down, because you would be surprised at the end how you feel, and you won't even remember that you felt that anxiety. So if you're feeling any anxiousness about this whole thing, and anxiousness feels different for all of us. Some of it might be tightness. Some of it might just be the breath is short. Some of it's like, I'm thinking about something else. I'm distracting myself because I don't want to think about it. All right. So we were just talking about learning something new and not feeling comfortable. So let's go through the tapping points. And if you want to, you could put numbers on the order that we go. And the first tapping point is going to be between the eyebrows. And that's on the top left-hand side, connected to the bladder. So you could put a number 1 there. And notice how I have you doing a few things at the same time. This connects the brain to what we're doing.
And
so
some people wonder what fingers to use.
So I use like 3, but you could use just the middle. And you tap gently, and it doesn't have to be super fast. So your question, Susan, is how fast? What feels good to you? What is comforting? Some people cannot tap. That tapping itself is overstimulating. You can massage. You can gently like pull away as if you're just like brushing the eyebrows. All we're doing is stimulating this area.
So that would have the similar effect then, Denise, because I'm tapping.
Yeah, so you don't even have to move your fingers like off the skin. It could just be pressure. But you're bringing your attention there, and there's a little bit of motion. It could be circular. Could be up and down.
Are you between the eyebrows? Or
I'm
both
right on
eyebrows,
the
or-
inside. Where the eyebrows come down, I'm right in this area right there.
Okay.
And so that's why I kind of like to use 3 hands, because I get that whole space. If you circle, you can circle a little bit bigger. Okay, so we talked about this fear of being able to learn. What is your fear? Are you fearful that you're not going to be able to? Are you just uncomfortable because of the learning environment itself, that it's not a comfortable way that you'd like to learn? What is affecting you right now in this moment about learning? And go ahead and bring the hands to the outside of the eyebrows, not on the temples, right where the eyebrows end. There's this little bone that comes down the ocular area, and we're going to tap there. And again, it could be circles, it could be tapping. And we're still thinking about the issue, the concern, what's bothering us. And I have this innate belief that I'm not a good learner. Some of us may have been raised, maybe a teacher said that you weren't smart. Maybe someone said something to you and you believed it. What was that was said to you? What do you believe about yourself and your ability to learn? What are those messages that you were told? And we're all women in here right now. Girls were told certain things. We weren't good at math. We weren't good at, anything that was spatial awareness. What were the messages that you learned? And are they still there? Are they still blocking your ability to believe in yourself? And let's tap under the eyes. And can you remember those stories? And did you support them? Sometimes we want the mind to be right. And so if someone said something, you weren't very smart, did you follow suit? And did you say, I'm not very smart? And then did you support it? You learned, you tried to do something, and maybe you didn't give it a fair chance. And so you believed it, right? I'm not very smart. Remember that time I tried to fly an airplane and I couldn't get it, right? What are those stories that were associated to that? And so let's tap under the nose on top of the lip. And there's kind of a divot like right in the middle. I like to kind of tap with my whole hand here. Only because usually I'm tapping in public and I'm talking to people. So this is hard, but you could also just tap with the middle finger. Again, you can massage it. I'm going to tap this way so you can see me. And now we've been talking a little bit about some limitations. How does your body feel? Where are you feeling it? Is there any tension in your body? Maybe there's tightness in the chest. Maybe there's tension in the belly, across the shoulders. I want you to feel that. That's your body responding to this. And we don't want to push it away. You want to feel that emotion. But if it gets to be too much, if it's overwhelming, drop your awareness into your feet. Feel your feet on the earth. Feel your hips as they rest on the chair, knowing that you are safe. So I can feel tightness in my chest. I can feel it in my belly. But at that same time, I'm safe. So now we're changing. You can go ahead and stop for a moment. Now we're changing that wiring in the brain, because when the breath gets short, that tension in the belly starts to come in. It sends a message to the brain. You need to run. There's something to be scared, right? We are rewiring the brain. We are telling the brain that you can have this thought and be safe. Feel your feet on the earth, feel yourself safe. All right, we're going to tap on the chin. And there's a spot right in the middle here, and you can use 3 fingers. You can use the hand this way. Really, it's not like pretty set, right? It's going to be how it feels comfortable for you.
That's a question.
Yes, please, this is about you learning. So
Does it make a difference that when you're tapping them to leave your eyes open, to close your eyes?
So you want to feel into your body. If you are opening your eyes to distract because it's so uncomfortable, that's not good. If it's too scary with your eyes closed, you can open the eyes and softly gaze upon something. If you're working with a practitioner, that practitioner is going to be keeping that eye contact with you to keep you safe, watching your breath, keeping you in that moment. If your eyes are closed and you wander. So we're working on a very specific topic here, but all of a sudden it's attached to this and it's attached to this. And then pretty soon you go to so many different paths, you really aren't helping this. So really it's going to be individualized. All right. So what are the emotions attached to this feeling? So when you feel that tension in the belly, that tightness, what are the emotions? Is it fear? Is it anxiety? What emotion do you attach to that? The words that you use guide how your body responds. People that have a small vocabulary and their only word is anger, that's what their mind says. That's what it goes to. But how are you feeling? Is there trepidation? That's a different word. Is there anxiety? Is there apprehensiveness? How are you feeling about this? Uncertainty. What are the emotions that are involved here? All right. So the next tapping point is the collarbone. And we have these bones. If you go right below, there's kind of this soft space. You can massage this. You can tap it. You can tap one. In the tapping solution, they take the whole hand to go across here. In my training, I was taught to tap like these 2 points here. So what feels good? This is one of those points that really just kind of softens the body right away. If I need to reduce stress, this is usually where I tap. In energy healing, we'll tap on the sternum, and that helps with the immune system. So there's a whole powerhouse here. And so I'm tapping here, and these right here are connected to the kidneys. All right. So we've thought about this idea about fear. We thought about the fear of learning. We thought about the stories that we were taught and the stories that we believed. We thought about how our body responded to those stories and the emotions that are attached to it. Anything else coming up about this fear of learning? Something I didn't mention. How is it preventing you from moving forward? Maybe there's a fear about, if I learn, then what? That change, that idea of change is scary. Other things might come up.
Well, at our age group, we were told girls don't need to know math. You're just gonna get married and have babies. So,
Our priority.
you
It was told to us. So I'm listening to this podcast now, this summit about rewiring the brain. And it's one of the things we have control over is our thoughts. But everybody tries to control our thoughts. Consumerism
I
tries
was
to
looking
control
at
our
that,
thoughts. Our parents
Mm.
control our thoughts. I'm doing it
that
right now.
Alice
Yes,
or Ashley gal.
I'm not sure. We'll have to double check, but our thoughts are ours, but we have been told that they belong to the teacher, to our parents, to society. We're empowering ourselves. All right, we're gonna tap under the arm. For a woman, it's like right where the bra is. And so now, this is also where our lymph is. And so now, we're gonna just soften into this idea that maybe I can change this belief. You've had it for such a long time, it might be who you are, right? It might be who you think you are in this moment and you can't change. But let's just kind of open our minds to the thought that maybe I can change. Maybe this thought, this idea, it's just a thought. It's just an idea. Other people have different thoughts, different ideas. Maybe I can too,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Maybe I can think
change
differently.
the stereotype that
That's
teenagers
huge.
don't wanna learn nothing and set in their ways and all this crap that we're told.
But that's scary, right? So we tap into it. And we're gonna do our last tapping on top of the head. We have this soft spot here, so be careful, be compassionate with yourself. I tap right here in the center. But if that's bothersome, tap a little softer, tap a little wider so it's not so pinpointed. You'll find how it feels good for you. But this tapping point right here at the top of the head, this is our crown chakra, right? This is the energy coming in, the energy coming out. And I want you to breathe. And I want you to trust in your body's ability to relax through all of this. So even though what we might be tapping on might be uncomfortable, might be difficult, your body can still relax. And as you're tapping on the top of your head, feel your feet connected to the earth, feel your hips resting heavy on the chair. You're safe. Go ahead and take a deep breath, rest those hands. Exhale out. So in the beginning of this tapping, we talked about doing a check. Go ahead.
The rib cage, we not have there.
So I added that because Donna Eden talks about this and it's the digestion and the liver holds so much. You can tap on this. It's not part of the tapping solution, but thank you for mentioning that. I would go from, I would probably do my collar to the rib to under the arm. So if you want to add that in there.
Okay.
So thank you.
And then
Sorry
there
about
you
that.
go.
The thymus, so the thymus right here is our immune system. And I love tapping on this because this just comforts me. It calms my body. So it reminds me to connect to my heart. So if anybody of you do heart math, if we have that understanding that the heart is this energetic being that sends energy out, and we just find that coherence of connecting our body and our heart and our soul and our heart and our mind and our heart. So there's several different things, several different ways we could do this. Yes, yes. Which also opens you up to what feels good for you, right? There's tapping points. These tapping points here, these meridians are also on the corners of your fingers. So if you want to dive in more, we can definitely do that. For today's session though, we'll stick with this. But check in the beginning, we talked a little bit about, how did you feel? We talked about learning a new skill and I had you on that scale 0 to 10. So go back and visit that. On that scale to 0 to 10, do you feel a little softer about it? Are you a little more open? We didn't do a lot of tapping. Maybe it elevated it. Maybe the fact that I talked about it brought up more ideas that you didn't even think about. Maybe there's more anxiety. How are you feeling right now? Where would you put yourself on that scale 1 to 10? And you can go back and put that number down. And so that's a great way. You don't have to do the scale, but sometimes recognizing the progress helps you know which direction to go. So
Another question.
Yeah.
About when we're doing the tapping on how with our breathing, I mean, is there any kind of just how we're breathing, or do we do anything
So
like that?
you will notice that just by tapping, your body would automatically soften and start to relax. I think because most of us practice yoga and we practice this, it's just an automatic to just bring that relaxation in.
So sometimes if I'm doing something that feels like I'm performing and doing, then I
You
hold
feel
my
it.
breath a little, or don't, don't
Yeah.
forget about my breath.
So it's a good question. So, you know, the mind is amazing. If we smile, maybe if we're, okay, let me get it in the right order here. When we are happy, we typically will smile. Have you ever had someone walk by and say, what are you thinking? Because you had a expression on your face and they knew you were thinking something. Our mind will direct our face to kind of like, am I questioning? Am I thinking? Am I happy? It works both ways. If you smile, the mind thinks, oh, she's smiling. She must be happy. And so the body is amazing how it communicates in both directions. Same thing with the breath. When you are calm, you're belly breathing. When you are in fight and flight, you're breathing through the chest. So if you are breathing through the chest, the mind thinks I'm in fight and flight. You can hack the brain. You can tell the mind that you're calm by breathing into the belly. You have so much control. We have not been taught that we have this control. Give yourself that control. Breathe through the belly and the mind says, oh, she's breathing in the belly. Everything's fine. So yes. So if you are aware, you're breathing, the mind is already in fight and flight. Slow it down. But sometimes you have to catch it. You hold your breath all the time and we don't even realize it. But the more we practice, the more we become aware. So I have a sheet. If you look on the sheet, effective freedom technique, the steps to creating your script. Step 1. So oh my gosh, we don't have much time. This went by so fast. So we have to be out of here because we have a training in here at 12:30. So we will go through this. This is something you can practice at home. So what I did is I set up step by step. So I made up a script, right? The idea was we're going to be talking about fear. So think about what is the issue? What is the concern? What is the block that you want to work on? Write that down. Now remind yourself of a situation when you experience that discomfort. So, you know, Joy gave a good example. She was reminded of that fear on the bike. If she puts her mind there, she's right back there. And it's almost as if her body thinks she's there and you have that fear. So you want to write that down. So you know, write down a time when this issue or this concern brought you distress or difficulty. That is going to help you paint that picture. That's going to help elicit those emotions in the body. Because if we've still pushed it down, it's not ready to be released. You have to bring it up. So what you do is you write down as much as you can. Now list or write down the thoughts associated with that. I remember riding my bike and I fell. I remember I tried this and I wasn't good at it. It must be true, right? Write these thoughts down. And then you're going to make a list of words associated to that. What are those words? I'm not worthy. I'm not talented. I'm not good enough. I'm not, right? What are these words that negative talk that just comes? Sometimes it's in the background. We don't even realize it. Write it out, bring it out. Write down the stories because it could be as easy as this situation. And then there's the whole story around it, right? So I have this girlfriend, she lost her fiance, and she's just now getting out to date, right? And something happened, the guy didn't call her. How many of you have been in a situation, suddenly there's all these stories, he doesn't love me, there's this. We make like these big old molehills out of something we don't even know, right? So what are the stories that you created around this? True or not, I'm not saying they're not true, I'm not saying you made them up. But you created these stories, right? And because the mind wants to be right, we find support for these stories, right? We gravitate to those stories. We don't see the things that might have been contradictory to that story. We find the things that prove that story. So write down those stories and then list down the emotions that are attached to it.
And it's like you're ruminating.
We ruminate and we ruminate.
And that, to me, is not good for me. You know?
But that's the mind. The mind likes to have something to hook on because it's what keeps you safe. If this was a dangerous situation, if this was something that was uncomfortable, the mind wants to hook on it and it keeps circling. And Ayurveda, we use mantra to help we correct that. We call them samskaras, these pathways that we take that just dig that ditch deeper and deeper until it's the only path that we see. But there are ways to change that. Tapping helps with that.
Affirmations.
Yes,
Get rid
affirmations.
of the ants, the automatic name themselves.
Yes, yes. So, okay, so this first section, now you've got your script. This is what you're gonna tap on, right? Right through there. You have this right in front of you and you start your tapping. Even though I'm feeling this, I'm okay with my body. I am okay, right? Now, in step 2, we move to the positive thoughts. How do you want to feel? And you know, so as a therapist, when I was doing therapy, I felt like when I was talking about the issue over and over, it's like I said, you're reliving it and the body's re-experiencing it. And that's hard. And so I wanted to talk about moving forward. But in tapping, we have to visit that hard in order to let it go free, right? You can keep shoving things in the closet and close the door, but all that stuff is still in there. So we have to let it out and then we can decide what we're going to do with it. So the second part is, what do you want to feel? I want to feel relaxed. I want to feel calm. I want to feel happy. Put these in words. And maybe you're not ready to say, I feel happy. Maybe you can write, I think I can feel happy. Or I'm ready to start moving towards happiness. So put the words that you can do. And then list down the thoughts associated with that. What would it look like? What would it look like to be a learner? What would it look like to be confident? What would it look like? And then list down the words associated with that. Standing tall, making friends, using my words, right? What are the words that you would associate to how you want to feel, how you want to come across? And then list down the stories, the new stories. I went to class and I learned a new skill. I am that type of person that I practice this. I'm worthy of that. And then list down the emotion, confidence, right? I feel confident when I have that. And what are those new emotions? What other words you might feel, right? Joy, happiness, contentment. You can think of lots of them. Joyful, connected. All right. So there's your script right there, right? Now you know how to create your own script. Now on the back, you take those words. You have to do Mad Libs. When you write down an adjective, you write down a noun, and then you put it into the script. No, it was like this fun book, Mad Libs. You would have to write an adjective, and then they would have a story, and you put that adjective in there. Okay, so now you put those words. Okay, thank you. You know what I'm talking about. Now you
Gotta have kids around.
yeah. So now you put those words in your script. Let's fill in your script. Even though I experience, and you write down what you wrote, I accept myself. Even though I experience whatever you wrote, I can relax my body. Even these thoughts of, and what are you feeling, right? So everything you just wrote now fills into this script. Is that making sense to you? If you take this home, is it something you'll be able to? Okay. Now, some of you are saying yes, because a lot of you tap with me so much, right? So it's a lot more common. But for those of you that haven't tapped, how's that feeling? Does that feel like that's something you could do?
You write it down and then you start tapping and thinking about it, or are you tapping and thinking about all these things?
So I like to say it out loud. So if I were to tap with you, even though I'm feeling, you would say, even though I'm feeling, and then we go through it together. So when I do private tapping sessions, we actually, I actually talk to you about the situation and I use your words.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because those are your words. It means something to you.
Yeah.
And then we really fill into what is that doing in your body? How is that feeling in your body? And so then now when you're here, this is where you're tapping. When you're writing, you're just free flowing writing. You're writing your thoughts, your feelings, you're pinpointing what's going on. This is when you actually start to tap. So this is now I'm tapping, I'm going through the points, and it doesn't have to be perfect, right? I follow this because it's easy to remember, right? And it's an easy practice that other people can follow. If I did it different every time, people would be like, oh my gosh, what is she doing? And this just feels comfortable. And so then you tap it inside there.
So number 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth one would be emotions.
You know, it doesn't even have to be quite that order, right? But what I want you to do is I want you to experience the whole thing. I want the words, the story. I want how it feels in the body. I want the emotions that are attached to it, right? Because when we experience it fully, so Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks about changing matter, and he changes it when it has that emotional attachment to it. If we're only in the mind, we're only changing the mind. If we're in the body, we're changing the body. But when we're working with the mind and the body together, we're changing who you are, right? We're rewiring everything. So I move through it, how my body responds. So first I talk about it. And as I talk about it, then I start to feel it. And then as I feel it, then I could put a name to those emotions. But you're going to experience it quite different. And so this may kind of change. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. So, all right. So it's 12:15. We can talk a little bit more about tapping and EFT, or we can move to neuro-linguistic programming. Do you want to kind of learn a little bit about neuro-linguistic? Okay. So let's do some of that. And I want you to know that I'm actually, okay, so I have a motive behind this. And the motive is, I want you to come back to see us. I want you to make me right and do tapping together, because this is something we can work on so that you feel better. So it was motivated to teach you this so that you want to come and do this and do it, you know, with us. So I'm going to be upfront about that. So. But mental health is hear about that, right? I mean, whatever you're trying to get through, we want to be there for you. But I also know that if you didn't experience it, you may not know if it was for you, right? Right? You may not know that this is something that feels good. So, okay. So neuro-linguistic programming, the mind and the body is connected. When I was a teacher, I would have children stand when we were teaching lessons, or I would have children tapping, because when we make these connections, it stays in the brain. And so neuro-linguistic programming is making those connections to how you experience life. Some of us are visual. A good teacher knows this. A good teacher is going to put pictures up there. They're going to have the sounds. They're going to be looking at the environment, because all of us are different. And so we want to connect to all of those realms of experiencing life, our scent, our kinetic, our hearing, our vision, right? So all of this, our sense, right? That intuition, all of that is connected to how we experience life. And so we reconnect to that during neuro-linguistic programming. So I talked a little bit in tapping that sometimes there's emotions that we may not be aware of. And so there's things that our parents taught us, society taught us, that are just so ingrained that we don't even make that connection. Let's go back to what Sparky was saying about that rumination in the mind. Sometimes there's events in your life that you're very aware of. You had a bad event, right? I'm outside, I'm walking, and there's this stray dog that's mean and he chases after me, right? My heart is beating, I'm running as fast as I can. I get inside the building. If I was an animal, I would shake it off, right? But I'm an animal, but I'm not like that type. I'm a human. So what do? I ruminate about it. I tell Sparky about it, and my heart's beating again. And then she goes, and then I see Joy, and I tell Joy about it. And I'm back there over and over, and we relive it and we relive it. And then pretty soon it becomes who we are. It's that story. You know, I had this situation with my husband 30 years ago. Do you not think I let that go? Nope. And it's just built, right? And it's become this big thing. And it becomes encompassing, and it becomes, you know, it's guiding your life. It's that lens that you see life through, and we don't even realize that we've done that. Neuro-linguistic programming is one way that we can soften that. So I'm just going to do a practice because we don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to run us through a practice. And so I want you to think about an experience that you had. Maybe you can make one up. If you can't think of one, think about that dog, right? We can all imagine that dog chasing you, right? And I want you to go back there. And remember, we talked about how we want all the senses. So I want you to see it. I want you to be able to look around 360 and see everything around you. See what you're wearing. If there's other people in your event, see what they're wearing. If there's trees, if there's buildings, look around, take all those colors in. And then what does it feel like? Can you feel the air? Is it hot? Is it cold? Is the wind blowing? What are your senses telling you right now? Maybe your hair is blowing just a bit. Maybe you can smell something. If you're outside, you can smell the trees or the flowers. Or maybe you're so close to that person, you can smell their breath or their body odor or something. What do you smell? What do you hear? Are there birds? Is there water running? Are you talking? Are they talking? What are you standing upon? And what is your gut telling you? Is this uncomfortable? Are you happy? Are you fearful? Is there anxiety? How are you feeling? So you take all this in right now. And maybe your heart is beating a little faster. Maybe your breath is short or you're holding your breath. Because it's like you're back there. And I want you to take a step back, almost as if you're witnessing it now. You can see yourself, and you can see yourself in this event, and it's still there. You can feel the pressure in the chest. You can feel your feet resting on the earth. You can still see around you, but you see it happening, and you've got just a little distance from it. I'm going to shut the door so there's so much. And I want you to continue to watch what's happening. But you're watching at a distance, and you can see this other person, if there's a person there, if there's a dog or something else. And take a step back a little further, almost as if you're floating above and you're looking down upon this situation. And now you can see even further. You can see other people going through their life. You can see other events, and you're not at the center of this anymore. You know it's happening, you can see it, but there's other things happening in this world too, and you can see that. And you can't smell what was going on, you're too far away. And actually the sound is a little muffled. And let's step back a little further, almost as if you're watching it on television. And now I can't see around at all. And I can't smell. I can't feel the temperature of the air. I just see it happening in front of me. And you might still be experiencing the emotion because you know what they're talking about. You know what's happening. You can see the expressions, but you don't see everything. You can't smell. You don't feel the air. And the colors are a little muted. And now that television turns to black and white. And everything is dull. It's no longer vibrant. And we turn down sound. And it's a little scratchy. And I really can't hear what's going on. And it gets to the point that I don't even want to watch it. I can't see it. I can't hear it. I'm really not a part of it. And I want you to reach out and turn that television off. And turn around. It's no longer there. And as you turn around, you see a door. And I want you to go through that door. And that door leads to a new place. Your happy place. And step through that door. And for each of you, that happy place will look different. It might be outside. It might be in a meadow of flowers or on a hillside. It might be at the ocean. Or maybe your place is inside with family or friends, laughing. But find that place that feels good for you. And as you find yourself there, look around. What do you see? Can you see the colors? Turn those colors up, they're bright and vibrant. Look around, take it all in, and you can smell it. It smells good. Maybe it's mom's cooking. Maybe it's flowers. What do you smell? And if you listen, you can hear. Maybe it's children laughing. Maybe it's friends talking. Maybe it's the bees buzzing and the birds flying by. What do you hear? The ocean waves crashing on the shore. Or maybe there's nothing. It's just quiet and silent. And what do you feel beneath your feet? What are you wearing? Look around as if you want to gather all this in, to hold on to this picture. Take in as much as you can, as if I was going to quiz you on all the pieces inside this picture. Look around, take it in, the colors, the sounds, the scent. And how is your body feeling in this moment? What are the emotions? Is it soft? Is it feeling happy? Are you relaxed? This is your joyful, happy place. Are you feeling safe and comfortable? And take a picture of this. Know that you can come back at any time. And when you're ready, we'll open our eyes. And I know some of you don't want to leave. So, neuro-linguistic programming, reprogramming what we think about an event. Our mind, when we are scared, wants to respond a certain way. And when we have that belief that that's okay, we should respond like that, we should be scared, and the breath starts to, and then it becomes. And we don't have to let it become. We can change. We can decide to behave differently. We can see it differently. With practice, you could do this in the moment. So I've had times that people have approached me and maybe they've like not accosted me, but maybe said something to me. And because it was directed at me, I didn't know how to respond. And I didn't respond because now my frontal lobe isn't working. I'm back here and I'm reacting. But if it happened to Joy, if they said something to Joy, and I'm not in the middle of it, it's so easy for me to say, well, you should have done this, you should have done this, because I had a little distance. NLP gives you that little distance so that you can make those choices. So you're not reacting, you're not responding, you're choosing. And so that helps. And so sometimes it helps me to just change the color. Or remember on Charlie Brown, when the parents would talk, oh, wah, 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 I just like turn that down, right? Wah, 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 wah. And it just gives me a little space to react, because the body wants to protect you and the body wants to respond, but you can give yourself a little space, see it happening, and choose how you react. So
Kind of like self-hypnosis, really.
it kind of brings you there, right? So, all right. It's,
Become the witness.
yes, exactly. So it was a lot of information in an hour. We have just a couple minutes if you have any questions. You guys are just like in awe, right? You're like, you're in your happy place.
I have a simple question. Is when we're doing the tapping, I realized that my left hand doesn't tap at the same rhythm as my right. Like it's,
Oh,
and
so if it's distracting, tap with one hand, right? Just tap with one hand then. Because if it's something that's calling your attention, that's going to pull you away from that moment. So you don't need both hands. You can tap with one hand.
Mhm.
So just, yeah, I would do that. So. All right, thank you. If you have not signed in, please sign in. You know that we're here to help support you. We'd love if you want to come and do more sessions like this with us. You know, we're here.
Do you want the chairs up? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
okay.
think you'll probably pull the table out, leave the chairs.
Yeah, leave the chairs out, leave the chairs out. What was else I was gonna say? Something, but, thank you for being here. I don't remember what I was gonna say, but share this with your friends, your family. This is powerful. This is really nice healing. And it's free, right? You can do it by yourself. And if you have any thoughts when you go home, we're here to help you. You know, if you have any kind of, I know I was gonna say, so we do meditation every morning. And sometimes meditation will include a visualization. Sometimes it will be tapping. But, you know, you can join us via Zoom every morning, 7:45.
You know how you were saying the thing about learning, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, I've been doing this for 15, 16 years but I just like the reinforcement, so thank you.
Yes.
I
thank you.
I
Thank
was
you for
trying
being
not
here.
to feel like. I was hoping you weren't thinking, well, why is she here?
Oh, no, because it is true. And sometimes we need that reminder,
Yes.
right? And we need to
Definitely.
practice it, because I'm good at learning. I'm not always good at practicing. You know,
So thank you.
I love to collect it.
Thank you.
I'm a good collector. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming.
Oh, there's a- I didn't see that. Yeah.
If you haven't signed in, please sign in.
I know. Good, we're gonna. Friends with
Right. Nice.
Yeah. It's a lot of